Okay, good morning. It's the 19th of Tishrei. We're going to do 19 and 20 because tomorrow we're not having class. Reason being, I have, thank God, Baruch Hashem, a simcha, a bris to go to in early morning up in Connecticut. So we're going to do 19 and 20 today. So as we start every day, we remind ourselves of the saying of our sages, Gadol Torah, great is Torah, Shemevi Rafua. It brings healing, a kol chai, to all living things. So who needs a refuah?
Barak ben Yamin ben Rachablima, Yehuda Skolda bas Lisa Hana, Chaim Yaakov Zev ben Sarah, Yosef Yitzhak ben Lior, Shoshana bas Hana, Gary Robert, son of George, Yaakov Shaul ben Hana Miriam, Yehudit Gila bas Rachalea, Hindik Yehudis bas Kili.
Refuah shlema b'korav to everybody. Refuah shlema to Rabbi Yitzhak Feivish ben Braina Malka should have a quick healing. Hayom Yom. For today, 19 Tishrei. In Shemon Esrei, we have an expression that says, "V'chol minei tebuasa l'taiva." We ask Hashem to bless all the produce of the earth with goodness. So now I'll read the Yom Yom. It's written that although that through all the year, when saying in Shemon Esrei, that all of the varieties of produce should be blessed for good. So when you say that every day, one should have in mind, particularly wheat for matzah, the esrog, and elsewhere it writes wine for kiddush. So having that kavanah, that intentionality in mind, every day when you say the Shemon Esrei, he says, then naturally all the produce will be for good. The supra-rational will pervade and penetrate the rational, the natural, and it will be good produce and a good year. Lessons in Tanya. So we're doing 19 and 20. 19 begins on the bottom of page 51, if you're looking in a small edition. And over here, it begins. It's on page Kuf Lamed Vav, counting from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines up. The line begins with a Behe Ba. Okay, so we're talking about the virtue of 10 people getting together. Which the number 10 is all over the Torah, right? 10 commandments, 10 spheros, and more. And 10 has a magic that anything less than 10 doesn't have. First of all, we discussed yesterday, learning Torah in a group that's less than 10 or even alone does have a reward. In fact, it brings schar mitzvah. It brings the reward of the mitzvah. And he described that reward of a mitzvah that when a person learns, even as we're learning, we have 8 people right now, according to this count. So the reward of the mitzvah is that the divine light comes down and bathes us. We're bathed in light. Sounds great. And it is great. Believe me, it is great. Not believe me, believe him, believe the truth. However, it's bathing you. It's like a shirt. You say like a shirt. It fits you. So whenever we're talking, as we've learned before, in the realm of shape, dimension, we're talking about that light which is called filling all worlds. Mamali kol almin. Fills all worlds. Just like water takes the shape, the uses of the notion of being bathed. Water takes the shape of the vessel that it's going to fill. So this is the or mamali, the or which fills all worlds. And that is drawn down, as we are doing now, in a group of 8 or even one person who sits and learns Torah. Today we're going to talk about the second aspect of light, which is called the Or HaSoivev, the all-encompassing light. And that's a light which is drawn down by a minyan, 10 or more people. And that's where we're going to start. And that, the language that the Torah uses to describe what that light is about is called Hashros HaShekhinah, the indwelling of the divine presence. And now I'm going to start. Aval Hashro hi ha'ora amu atzuma. This dwelling of the Shekhinah, the Shekhinah dwelt in the Beis HaMikdash, particularly in the Holy of Holies. Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is a hora atzuma. It's a very, very strong light. Me'or Hashem, from the light of Hashem, Hameir Ba, which radiates in her, Bli Gvul V'Tachlis, without any boundaries, without any limitations. So once you hear without boundaries, without limitations, this is a catchphrase, so to speak, or should remind us that this is how we describe the Or HaSoiviv Kalami, the all-encompassing light. The Eina Yochelis Labish Benefesh Gevulis, and it can't be enclosed in a limited soul. Every soul, though it's a part of God, has a particular characteristic to it. My soul and the root of my soul is different than yours, though we're ultimately, of course, carved out of God himself, as everything is. But when we talk about souls, we're talking about individually characteristic and soul entities, spiritual entities. There's a light which is beyond that, which literally encompasses everything. And by the way, I have to put in, since we're here, this class is in Sukkah, this is the light of the Skach. I'm sitting in the Sukkah now, and there's a very teeny light coming through from above. And the Skach is the beginning of the descent of the Or HaSoiviv, the all-encompassing light. And together, the walls of the Sukkah and the Skach create an enveloping envelope, which in one of them that I'm learning from the Alter Rebbe, he says the purpose of that enveloping envelope is to guard what's inside of it. And the mashal that has clicked for me over the years that I haven't seen anywhere, but I think it's appropriate, is an eggshell. An eggshell doesn't drop into the yolk. In fact, if it drops into the yolk, you want to get the eggshell out. But what does it do? It protects the yolk, and the yolk will eventually become a chick, right? It's like the womb surrounding the embryo. That's the Or HaSoivev. And that's a metaphor for what the Alter Rebbe calls Hashros HaShekhinah, the indwelling of the divine presence, which is the reward that comes from doing a mitzvah together with a group of 10. He's talking here about learning, but later he'll speak about learning and any other mitzvah. So once again, learning less than 10 is a reward for that, right? And that reward is a ray of the infinite light designed and enclothing you particularly. And the reward for learning in a group of 10, which 10, interestingly, the number 10, you notice as the numbers, they increase 1 through 3 through 9, 10 gets back to 1 0, right? And 1 0 in computer talk is everything. The bit in the computer is either there or not there. And the not there is the presence, is what we call the nothing, right? And that's what we call in the language of Kabbalah and Hasidus the ayin. It's a 0, but it's not really nothing at all. On the contrary, it's an everything which is so big and so all-encompassing that we can't give it any definition. And that's what happens. Yochelis labish benefesh gebulas. Okay, and that light can't come and penetrate each and every soul. Now I'm back inside. It so-called hovers from above. But hovering means it encompasses. This is the word used. It's encompassing from head to toe, and it's penetrating everything in order to keep everything in a state of existence and in a state of protectedness. As the sages have said, Hakol be'esora shechinta shruya. In any gathering of 10, the Shekhinah dwells, claiming, which means to say, it dwells aleihem ilamayla. It dwells upon them from above, Again, an allusion to the Or HaSoivev. And Meshikosev, as is written, Vehi Noim Hashem Oleinu, that the sweetness of God should be upon us, not within us, but upon us. Another allusion to the Or HaSoivev. Umasi Yedena Keninu Oleinu, and the deed of our hands is established upon us. Claimer, which means to say, Kinoum Hashem, the sweetness of Hashem, Asher Hefia V'masa Yedenu, the sweetness of Hashem, which appears in the deeds that we do, the deeds of our hands, when we occupy ourselves in Torah and mitzvahs, of which it says, the Torah and God, the Holy One, blessed be He, are one, it's established and it dwells upon us, milamayla, from above. Why is it above? Again, the Or HaSoivev is limitless, and therefore can't be contained in everything, in anything. That means it can't be divided into discrete rays. That's the Or Mamale, but it's present and needs to be present in everything, because the Or HaSoivev, I said, it protects. That's one function. The other is that it's the level of light which brings into being everything. There's no being without the Or HaSoivev. The differentiation of being is from the Or Mamale, but the fact that everything is and that everything has a life force within it is a function of the Or HaSoivev. And it dwells upon us, milamayla, from above. I'm on the bottom line of page Kuf Lamed Vav. Li'esei b'li, because it's without any limitation, v'tachlis, and without any end. It's not enclosed, again, like a piece of clothing fits you. It's limited to your body size. But this is not. It dwells, it's einimis. It's not enclosed b'nafshenu, b'sichlenu, in our soul and in our intellect. And it's totally present, like the ayin, the nothing, is totally present in the everything, but the nothing is hidden. That's another one of the allusions to the skach of the sukkah. One of the halachas of the skach of the sukkah is that there has to be more shade than light. And in Lubavitch, it's very little light, because it's not the illuminator, but it is the creator. Okay. Top of page 272. Since it's the light which is undefinable, it's not graspable in our minds. We can't grasp in our minds. We can't grasp in our minds the delight and the sweetness, Menoim Hashem, from the sweetness of Hashem, the Ziv HaShechina, and the ray of the divine presence, which is Bligvul V'tachlis, which has no boundedness, no limitations. Hashem Yisleinin V'yishra Oleinu B'maisi Yudenu, which rests and dwells upon us, again, upon us, in the deeds of our hand, the Torah u'mitzvahs berabim dafka. That's where he says Torah and mitzvahs, specifically in 10. That's why we like to get groups of people together to say Tillim, right? Because there's a power in the group that is not only, it's not greater than, it's a whole different level than the power that's in individuals. And this says, you said schar mitzvah b'hai al malecha. They said that the reward of the mitzvah is not in this world. Because the world, by definition, is a bounded, limited place. In fact, we've said this many times, the word oilam, ayin vav lamed mem, oilam, if you take out the vav, is alem, which means hidden. This world hides the Or HaSoivev. It's not available. It can't be touched, but it's responsible for the being of everything. And the only way that we get some sense of this, more tangibility, if you will, to it, is when this light, the hispashtis hanefesh minaguf, when the nefesh flows away from the body, mehaguf, from the body, the afgam zeis, and even then, al derech chesed. It's a pure kindness of Hashem that we should have any experience of this Or HaSoivev. Kamman is written, Hashem chesed. To you, Hashem, belongs kindness. In other words, you have the ability to give us the experience of the Or HaSoivev. The Or HaMamale we bring upon ourselves every day. Practical ways that we do the Or HaMamale is when we give tzedakah, there's a result from it. When we put on a talis and tefillin, if we're obligated to do so, that actually has results in terms of opening our hearts to Hashem in very particular ways, each mitzvah according to its particularity. But when we do the same thing in a group, it's a pure chesed that Hashem will reveal to us the Or HaSoivet. Ki ata tish teshalem or tishlam la'ish. You, God, are the one who pays back, who gives, who fills up and gives up and fills up the person. B'maasehu, in his deed. U'kamei she'omer Razal, as our sages have said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu naisen koyach b'tzadikim. Hashem is the one who gives power to tzaddikim. And as we know, we've learned many times, the Maimer of other sages, Amach kulam tzaddikim. All of your people are tzaddikim. We all have that point of tzaddik. We all have that. We all have the Or HaSoivet operating in us, otherwise we couldn't exist. But we also have the ability to have some experience of it through God's kindness, because Amach kulam tzaddikim. We have that point of righteousness embedded deeply within us. Masha'en ken b'malachim, angels don't have a godly soul. Right? Angels don't have a godly soul. They're created beings. So malachim, kamei sheshmaitim and Rabbeisai, the Alter Rebbe says, as I have heard from my teachers, primarily the allusion to the Mezritch Magid and the Baal Shem Tov and others, as I have heard from my teachers, if one angel were to stand among 10 Jewish people, biyachad, together, even if these 10 people are not speaking words of Torah, what would happen is that people olov and mosai v'pachad b'ligvul v'tachlis. They would fall upon the angel a dread and fear without any limitation. From what? From the Shechinta, from the divine presence, the Shore Alayhu, which dwells again over them, or HaSoivet. Until these angels would be blown away, is the colloquial way to say it, completely nullified in their existence. All right, that's today's, and other people join us. We are not having a class tomorrow because for good news, which is that I have to go to a new grandson's bris in Connecticut early in the morning. So we're going to do tomorrow right now. Let me pause before we do that. Any comments or questions on what we've learned so far?
I'll just say Mazel Tov. That's beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. But we should all have expanded nachas from our children, our grandchildren, and from each other.
Amen.
Okay, therefore, well, I didn't get any comments or questions? Okay. Okay, therefore, it's bad in my eyes. I don't like what I'm seeing, says the Alter Rebbe. Amasa, what is he seeing? The deed, which is happening, is an expression, under the sun, in the world of variety and change, the world that we live in. The klal in general, ubefrat, and it specifically, in achai v'reya hanegoshim el Hashem. Amongst, I'm not happy with what I'm seeing happening amongst my brothers and friends who are coming close to Hashem. Shegeshazu tefillah, and what does I mean by coming close to Hashem? Going back to davening. Berachah tefillah, what happens? They daven, and after davening, or lifneha, or even before, Nasha Moshe Leitzim, they become a group of idle ones, sitting and just doing nothing, or talking nothing, talking what we would call small talk. Kamesha Omer Rizal, as the sages have said, two people who meet or sit, and they don't have amongst them words of Torah. This is called a Moshe Leitzim, a group of scoffers, or ones who are not connected with Hashem. And if this happens with a group of 10, I mean, here we're talking about our minyanim, unfortunately, you go to shul. Okay, I don't have to say what it's probably in front of everybody's eyes when you go to shul. Of course, when this is happening in shul and there's more than 10 people are together, the Shechinta Shori Alai, where the Shekhinah is meant to dwell upon you, So in that case, where there's prattle or who knows what, we'll call it whatever you want to, going on in shul, there's no greater insult, there's no greater shame that one gives to the Shekhinah, to the divine presence, that's any greater than this. Rahmanul Islam, God should save us from this. And if, as our sages have said, concerning transgressing the Seiser, even if you do it privately, and they say about that one who transgresses privately, he pushes away, or one pushes away the feet of the Shekhinah, that's for Shalom. So, of course, if you do this in public, or if a public is doing it, you're pushing away the entire measurement or the entire force of the one who stands up the world. The whole deed of creation is, as it were, and the whole purpose of creation is nullified by a group of people. One person, he starts with, how much more, 10 people who are not focused on the avoided that's in front of them. That this nullifies the Yetzer Bereshis, the one who forms creation. As if you can say such a thing. Because of Rizal, as the sages have said, together. I cannot live together. God says, I cannot live together with people, and with particularly a group of 10 who are meant to be assembling for some holy purpose and don't do so. This is like tying up the king and throwing him into the gutters. Woe to the one who pushes away the Shekhinah. And now he quotes a Zohar. When Hashem will stand up, and he will say, that you should all wake up. This is the resurrection of the dead. Woe to someone who has to behave like this when it's time for Hashem to call out to everybody to wake up from the dust. And the Zohar goes on and says there are three things which interfere, which interfere amongst the Jewish people. The galuta, meaning that keeps them in gullus. By pushing away the Shekhinah, and because of shaming the Shekhinah. And he goes on, I don't know what the others are, but insulting the Shekhinah who wants to dwell here. In other words, think of it, as I mentioned earlier, simply the revelation of God that existed in the Beis HaMikdash when 3 times a year, i.e. one of them being Sukkot, we went Oiler Regel. We went up. Our feet went up. Oiler Regel. That's what's in it. Oiler Regel. We made 3 regalim, feet walking, going up the hill to Yerushalayim, and we saw the revelation of the Shekhinah. And woe to one who pushes away the feet of the Shekhinah. This is written in the Holy Zohar. Al Kain, therefore, my beloved ones, my brothers, sisters, my friends, do not please do this kind of evil thing, this great evil thing. And give honor to Hashem, your God, before it gets dark. And when I first read this, I thought it was meaning, and it could be, before, don't darken it anymore. But he's talking very simply at Ma'ariv time, when people go to shul, between Mincha and Ma'ariv, as it's getting dark. As he says, ben Mincha LaMa'ariv, between Mincha and Ma'ariv, Kol Yimei Sechor, all the days of the week. So the custom has been for centuries in shuls that the minyan assembles between Mincha and Ma'ariv and learns the Ayin Yaakov, the parts of the Gemara which are called Midrash, but also in which are embedded certain halachas. And it's a very big thing to sit in shul and learn Ayin Yaakov. So, and they do this all the days of the week, Lilmod Be'asura, and learn in a group of 10, right? Penimis HaTorah. the inner dimensions of the Torah, which Midrash is or the inner part of the Torah, as opposed to the just explicit halakhic part of the Torah. Shehi Agada, they call it Agada. The Sefer Ayin Yaakov, in the Sefer, the book which is called Ayin Yaakov. Shereiv Soidus Torah Neguzin Bo, because in Ayin Yaakov, many secrets are hidden there, in that book. And learning those things atones for the sins of a person, as is written in the writings of the Arizal. And also there are nigla, there are open practical things that are also written in Ayin Yaakov. Hein Darkei Hashem, teaching us about the ways of Hashem, not so much the details of, for instance, what to do in Shabbos, but the general ways of how to be a frum Jew and walk in the ways of Hashem. Shilelech Bahem, how a person should go in them. Sheyelech Bahem Odom, how a person should go in them. Yosis Eitzes Benafshe, and how it gives instructions, the kinds of things you should meditate upon, put upon your soul, take the advices you should take upon your soul, b'mila d'shmaya, b'mila d'alma, both pertaining to your relationship with Hashem and in your relationship with worldly things. Ki yadua l'kol chachmei lev, as is known to all who are wise at heart, regam lilma, that period, regam lilma ma'at b'shulchan aruch, and also in this time between Mincha and Ma'ariv, that is getting dark, right? I mean, as it's getting dark, let's shed some light. And the light, of course, is the or in the Torah, or the light in the Torah. So also learn a little bit of Shulchan Aruch, in the Orach Chaim, which is the practical affairs of daily life. Hilchos HaTzrichos L'Kol Adam, the halachas that every person needs. Valzeh Amar Hazal, and on this our sages have said, Kol Hashem halachas b'chol yom, everyone and anyone, and we were talking about people, we're not talking necessarily and at all only about men, because every person, women and men, have halachas that they're responsible for, and particularly halachas Shabbos. It's always emphasized because there's so many halachas of Shabbos, and so easy to not be aligned with what the detail of what's supposed to be done in Shabbos, that it's incumbent upon everybody to learn and relearn, particularly Hilchos Shabbos, and to learn in general halachas b'chol yom, the laws, the halachas each and every day. Shehein halachas berures, because these are laws are spelled out clearly, the hapasukos, and they're paskin clearly what the halacha is in the Shulchan Aruch. So it's paskin halacha l'maaseh. What's the law according to what a person should do? Rashi Zal Sham, as explained there by Rashi. And that's tomorrow's Tanya. So what do we have in these 2 days? The advantage of a group of 10, right? Whether it's mitzvahs, or whether it's Torah or mitzvahs, the Torah or mitzvahs, Torah and mitzvahs berabim, in public. So it certainly applies to the groups that are assembling all over the world all the time and saying Tillim for our victory. God willing, it will be really a victory in Eretz Yisrael. And we're saying Tillim for that. And why do we do it berabim? Well, we've learned why we do it berabim. Because the Shekhinah dwells. The power of the divine presence is there in a group of 10. And in the detail of daily life, we all have halachas, we all have davening, and when you do halachas in a group, it has much more power than when you do it singly. However, doing it singly also is important, because the difference between the reward, which happens in even one person, and the hashros of Shekhinah, which happens with 10 people. Okay. Kamman's question. So someone or 2 people should give us, therefore vas, ubechein. So what? What will we do with it? Come on. I know you're thinking. So speak. All right, then I'll leave it to you to mull it over and do the day with the intentionality that we've just put in front of us. And we'll get together again. Yamir Hashem. Today's what? Monday? Wednesday. Yamir Hashem will be the next class. Zayim gesund and Chag Sameach.